The 2025 NBA Finals treated us to some of the best basketball we've seen in almost 10 years. A matchup between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder that many analysts said would be a quick series and a dominant display from the Thunder quickly turned into a back and forth series full of dramatic comebacks and overall just great hoops. In this video, we recap each game from 1 to 7 and attempt to relive an extremely special NBA Finals. In Game 1, OKC came out with Case and Wallace in the starting 5 instead of the double big lineup they were running against Minnesota, while Indy came out with the exact same lineup they've had this entire playoff run. The game didn't get off to a fast start like the Pacers may have hoped, as OKC jumped out to an early 7-0 lead, and it seemed like the Pacers couldn't buy a bucket against this strong Thunder defense. Indiana would eventually start to find some consistency scoring the ball through Pascal Siakam, but they were still having major issues with turning the ball over. They had more turnovers than shots made this quarter, and it seemed like the nerves may have been getting to some of them, like Obi Toppin, who had 3 of their 9 turnovers on somewhat simple mistakes. As you would expect, this OKC team capitalized on those mistakes, getting out to a 29-20 first quarter lead behind an aggressive SGA who had 12 of those 29. The Pacers started the second quarter by cutting the lead down off some nice Obi Toppin and Halliburton threes. Hitting threes were one of the only things keeping Indiana alive, as they were still giving the ball away, setting a season-high 20 turnovers in the first half. Surprisingly though, OKC wasn't doing that great of a job capitalizing off the turnovers this quarter. Most times their transition offense led to a missed 3, and even though OKC went into half up 12 thanks to SGA's aggressiveness, it felt like there was still some food left on the plate. In the third, it became clear that J-Dub and Chet might not be showing up to this one, as they both continued to struggle to help OKC extend their lead. SGA was still getting to his spots pretty comfortably, but Indiana had finally cut out their turnover issue, as they only had 2 in the third. Pascal and Hallie also started to do their thing on the offensive end, and it started to feel like the Pacers were really in this game, even though OKC was still up 9 thanks to an SGA 3 to end the quarter. J-Dub came out aggressively to start the fourth quarter, scoring 6 straight with the help of Isaiah Hartenstein's screens, and eventually gave OKC their largest lead of the night, going up 16. The problems for OKC started to begin just after that though. First, it's a Nembhard and 1 after the timeout. Then, an Obi Toppin 3. Then, another one. Then, before you know it, Miles Turner is hitting a step back, banked in 3 to cut the lead down to 4. With the OKC crowd starting to sound extremely nervous. To say things weren't going great for the Thunder would be an understatement, because this is exactly where the Pacers have been comfortable all playoffs long, and it was looking like they were going to find themselves on the wrong end of one of their comebacks. J-Dub and Lou Dort both missed huge threes down the stretch, while Andrew Nembhard hit what might have been one of the biggest shots of his career and the series.
Handler at this point in time because the defense has been so aggressive.
Nembhard steps back, 3-pointer, got it! 3-pointer from Nembhard!
The Pacers continued to be extremely aggressive offensively, and that eventually led to a Pascal putback that cut the lead down to 1 with only 48 seconds remaining. The next Thunder possession, Shea forces up a bad shot and gives the Pacers a chance to steal game 1.
It's no fouls to give. Halliburton looking. Halliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 3/10 of a second remaining. Timeout, OKC. Tyrese Halliburton does it again!
The Pacers, through absolute grit and determination, stole Game 1 right from under the OKC Thunder. This was the game that started to make people believe that this could actually be an entertaining series, after almost a week of analysts telling us that this would be a wash. Game 2 started out with a slow scoring pace once again, with both teams feeling each other out for the most part. Shea had 5 straight at one point, but I would say Indy was doing a pretty good job at keeping up until Chet got involved. Chet Holmgren was clearly looking much more confident to start Game 2, scoring 9 points in the quarter and shooting 4 or 5 from the field. The way he was shooting was making it impossible for them to send help on the Shea pick and roll, and it helped the Thunder close the quarter on a 9-0 run, thanks in part to Indiana not capitalizing on some OKC turnovers also. The Pacers were an absolute mess without Hallie on the floor in this game. Minutes where they could usually gain an advantage on OKC with their bench unit, they were getting beat in, and a big reason for that is J-Dub. He led OKC to a 9-0 run without SGA on the floor and extended their lead to 15. When SGA did check back into the game, the Thunder were completely locked in on the defensive side of the ball, and Aaron Wiggins of all players started to get hot, ballooning the lead to an even bigger 21, the largest lead of the series so far. The Pacers went on a little run of their own, but it was no use as OKC still went into the half up 18. Indiana came out attacking OKC bigs, putting Chet in different actions with Miles Turner to get him in foul trouble. And this was effective for the first couple minutes as Miles Turner had a quick 8 points. But eventually Indiana's defensive rotation started to break down. OKC was getting way too many open looks, and unlike game 1, they were knocking them down. Especially Aaron Wiggins, who was continuing his strong showing in this one. Shea was also completely in control this quarter, and when everything else is working around him, it makes this Thunder team incredibly difficult to stop, maybe even impossible. By this point in the game, Hallie had more turnovers and assists, and it started to look like this Pacers team was just forcing up shots that weren't there. Indy did fight hard to keep the lead under 20 for most of the game, just to keep you wondering if they would come back, but ultimately they never did, and OKC got a much needed Game 2 win before the series moves back to Indiana. OKC came out with some urgency in Game 3, looking to take a commanding lead in the series behind another solid first quarter from Chet Holmgren and Lou Dort, who nailed all 3 of his threes to start off the game. Indiana got some decent production from Pascal, who has some experience in these situations, but the rest of the team looked a little bit nervous to be playing in front of their home crowd in the finals for the first time. OKC was up 32-24 going into the second, despite SGA's slow start, and things were looking a little bit scary for Indy. Indiana's bench was the spark plug that woke them back up and helped them get back into this game with a fantastic second quarter. TJ McConnell was all over the passing lane, snatching 3 steals, and Benedict Mathurin started to find his bag, dropping 14 points while only missing 1 shot. Pacers bench players were outscoring the Thunder 30-11 in the first half, and although he was still scoring, Shea couldn't get his jumper to fall, which caused OKC's offense a couple stagnant stretches. Because of this, Indiana managed to erase the Thunder's early lead and actually go into the half with a 4-point lead of their own. In the third, we were gifted to back and forth competitive hoops, and also got the answer to the big topic of discussion, which was if Haliburton was going to be more aggressive going into this game after his lackluster showing in Game 2. He was attacking the basket more often in this one with his floater and wasn't afraid to pull the trigger from 3 whatsoever, which made for super entertaining hoops to watch. Despite all that, SGA and J-Dub combined for 18 on 7 for 13 shooting and gave OKC the lead going into the final period of play. Benedict Mathurin once again started the fourth blazing hot, getting whatever he wanted on the offensive end, much like in the second. It just felt like he couldn't miss. On top of this, Indiana's defense seemed to hit a different gear, almost like they were saving energy for this fourth quarter, because they were playing extremely aggressive, clearly recognizing the spot that they were in. TJ McConnell was once again forcing inbound steals, and it felt like the Thunder and SGA specifically may have been a little bit gassed on the offensive end, as they looked uncharacteristically sloppy and weren't getting many good looks at all. Indy's defense managed to hold on until the final buzzer, and Indiana managed to find themselves with a series lead after 3. No one thought that this is where they would be after 3 games, and if you were a Thunder fan, this was probably a very bad day to be on social media, as everyone was letting their thoughts be heard on how they felt about SGA and this Thunder squad, who looked to be on the verge of choking away one of the best seasons of all time. But the series wasn't over yet. Isaiah Hartenstein made his return to the OKC starting lineup in a Game 4 that had a much faster pace to the game than the previous couple, which, as you can imagine, lends itself pretty well to Indiana. Haliburton continued his aggressive scoring approach he began taking last game, and Indiana were shooting 9 of 12 to start the game behind great ball movement. The roles reversed a little bit in this game though, as OKC was the team lingering around. Despite the Pacers' great play, the lead was only 1 thanks to J-Dub and Caruso, who were both doing a good job attacking the rim. The second quarter saw both teams playing great back and forth basketball, with the Pacers bench led by TJ McConnell looking very effective against this Thunder defense once again, and SGA having to carry the majority of the load on the OKC side of things. Scott Foster interrupted a few times to do his Scott Foster thing, and Indiana went into half with a 3-point lead, but oddly similar to OKC's Game 1, where it felt like they should have been up more. The second half started out a little bit slower, but Indiana was finally starting to take control. OKC was struggling to find any offense outside of Shea, and Obi Toppin was stepping up in his role with some big threes on the other end. The Thunder were still hanging on though, as they managed to stall the Pacers at the end of the quarter and cut the 10-point deficit down to 7 right before the fourth. Indiana's offense came out ice cold, and OKC eventually erased their lead, putting them into another back and forth affair. Usually Indiana looks comfortable in these situations, but in this particular game, they began to look out of sync and a little bit stuck. It was clear that after being in the driver's seat for almost the entire game, the Pacers were starting to lose control and let this one slip away. Shea was using J-Dub's screens to get switched on to Nesmith and just absolutely going to work, racking up 15 of the 35 in the fourth, along with a controversial dagger that I personally think was pretty sick, but I could see the argument of it being a push-off as well. The Thunder had come from behind and snatched what was virtually a must-win from Indiana on their home court and was going back to OKC tied 2-2, feeling more confident than ever. In Game 5, OKC took that confidence and used it, shooting the lights out to start this one. Case and Wallace even joined the scoring party after being quiet the majority of the series, and everything seemed to be going OKC's way early. This success continued for the entire first half thanks to 16 points from J-Dub, where he looked unstoppable. And with Shea not being quiet either, this looked to be heading towards a blowout. Indiana was also dealing with what looked like to be a lower leg injury that Tyrese Halliburton suffered, and that only dampened the hopes for a comeback. OKC didn't show any signs of slowing down in the second half, with J-Dub continuing his dominant performance. Indy began to find some success thanks to TJ McConnell and their bench once again stepping up, and I'm sure OKC fans started to get a little nervous that this would be yet another Pacers comeback, and it was definitely close. At one point in the fourth quarter, Indy cut the once 16-point lead all the way down to 2, but that's when OKC's defense completely took over. It looked suffocating to play against, and they were forcing turnover after turnover, hitting timely threes on the other end thanks to players like Lou Dort, who have been hot almost all series. The Thunder completely put out the Indiana comeback in dominant fashion, and coming out of this one, it honestly seemed like the series may be over, especially with the Halliburton injury news a day later that confirmed he had a hamstring strain. Despite the narratives of the series being over, the Pacers came out with a clear intensity from the opening tip, and it almost looked like some of the OKC players were succumbing to their nerves. Indiana went on a 14-4 run early in the first after OKC actually started the game pretty well. After some time, it became clear that OKC's ball movement was extremely sloppy in this one, and SGA was uncharacteristically racking up turnovers. The Pacers would take full advantage of this in the second quarter behind 2 Halliburton threes, who many people thought wouldn't even be playing this game. It wasn't just him though. The whole Pacers team came to play in this one, with 6 different players scoring in double figures, most notably Obi Toppin with 20 and TJ McConnell making his impact felt in every facet of the game. Indiana surprisingly was the team to give us what I would consider to be the first true blowout game of the series, and it came in Game 6 with their backs against a wall and their seasons on the line to force what would be the 2 greatest words in sports: Game 7. I don't know if it was being able to see the players' intros or OKC's crowd, but the atmosphere before Game 7 was absolutely electric in my opinion, and the anticipation was immeasurable. SGA got out to a quick start, scoring the first 4 points for OKC and even getting a block on Hallie, but it almost seemed like that woke him up, because after that, Tyrese Halliburton hit 3 straight threes, forcing the Thunder to call a timeout. After the timeout, the Thunder ran a great action to get the defense focused on SGA, and Caruso knocked down a wide open 3. But right after that, Hallie took an extremely scary fall, and it was immediately apparent what just happened. The worst case scenario happened, and Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles in the first quarter of Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Everyone knew this was a possibility playing on the injury he was playing on, but for it to happen like this was absolutely devastating. The game hit a lull as it seemed like players on both sides needed some time to process what just happened, but to start the second, Benedict Mathurin hit a 3 to tie the game, and the back and forth nature of this one continued. Unsurprisingly, the 2 champions on the floor, Pascal Siakam and Alex Caruso, were making their presence felt in this one. OKC got into the bonus early thanks to SGA. Both teams were struggling from the line. The Thunder didn't do a great job at capitalizing on the Hallie injury or the bonus, as Nembhard cashed in a deep 3 to end the first half with a 1-point lead for Indiana, which is a huge victory for the Pacers after everything that's happened in this quarter. The second half started with OKC absolutely dominating the offensive glass and capitalizing with second chance points to grab the lead to start the quarter. They then managed to extend the lead, going on a 9-0 run thanks to finally capitalizing on open catch and shoot shots thanks to SGA's solid playmaking. TJ McConnell tried to will the Pacers back all by himself, scoring 12 straight for the Pacers, but it was no use as Indiana was turning the ball over at way too high of a rate, and SGA hit a smooth midi to give them a 13-point lead going into the final quarter of the season. The fourth quarter was absolutely disastrous for Indy. They couldn't get anything going, and once you give OKC some defensive momentum, especially at home, they get extremely hard to score on. Chet gets his 4th block of the game, and that leads into a J-Dub 3 that looked like it would be the dagger of the whole series. Indiana managed to put a little bit of pressure on OKC, going on an 11-1 run to cut the lead down to 12, but they couldn't ever get close enough to OKC for it to truly be a game again. The Oklahoma City Thunder finished the job and capped off a historic season with an NBA championship, becoming the 7th different NBA champion in the last 7 years. SGA came home with a well-deserved Finals MVP after a fantastic series, averaging 30 points on solid efficiency. This was easily one of the best Finals matchups I've seen in my lifetime, and for sure the greatest Finals since 2016. I'm sad that it couldn't have a better ending with Hallie going down and Game 7 not being the closest, but overall, I couldn't ask for too much more from a finale to a great NBA season, and I'll always remember the 2025 NBA Finals. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Was this the best Finals since 2016, or is there another you think of? Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It really means a lot to me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.